Welcome to another episode of this FPS tutorial series where I'm today going to show you how to create this shooting. And you can press R to reload. And again, real quick before we get started, this video is sponsored by me. I have a community in the link in the description where I teach you how to make Unity games. So if you're a complete beginner, this is perfect for you. Check it out in the link in the description. So let's create the shooting by first going to input. So we're gonna add some inputs for the shooting. So first we'll click on the plus icon to add another action, which I will call shoot. Then for the binding right here, I'll go to path, choose mouse, and choose the left button. So this is basically your left click. Then I'll click the plus icon again for another action, which I will call shoot release. So this is when you release the left button. So again, I'll click on binding and set it to mouse, left mouse button. And I'll click this interactions right here. And there's this one called press. And instead of having this trigger behavior set to press only, I'll set it to release only. Then lastly, I'll click the plus icon one more time and I'll write reload. Then I click right here, click on the binding, and I'll set the path binding right here. Click on listen and press R for reload and click on that one. So now we have all of these, so we can click save asset. Now head back to scene. And what we'll now do is click on the player right here, so open it up. Then I'll click on the main camera and right click and go to create empty, and this empty game object will be called gun holder. So under this game object the gun will be. Now we'll just go to our low poly weapons and click on prefabs, and our weapon 2 right here is an AR. I'll drag that into the scene, and let's just click on the prefab right here and rename it to AR. Click rename file, then go back to scenes and also call this one AR. Then I'll drag this one onto gun holder and I'll set the position to 0, 0, 0. And let's look where the main camera is looking. So that is looking this direction. So we need to rotate the gun holder on the y-axis by 90, like that. And then we can set the position to a 0.43, a minus 0.3, and a 0.2. So if we now look in the game, we can see the gun right here. But our gun is missing right here, and we can fix that very easily by going to the main camera. And we have these clipping planes, and the near plane should be set to 0.01 instead, like that, and that fixes the problem. So now we have a gun, and in the next episode we'll make so you can switch the guns and all of that. But we'll just be using this gun for now. Then under this AR, I'll right click, go to create empty, and I'll call this empty game object for bullet, spawn, point. And I'll just put it at the top right here. Then I'll click on the AR and I'll click on overrides and click apply all. This applies the changes of this prefab to the actual prefab down here. And now what we'll do is go to assets, go to scripts, and we'll create some new scripts. So I will actually create 3 different scripts. So I'll right click, go to create, do mono behavior script. And the first script will be called player shooting. And this will handle all the inputs for shooting. Then I'll right click again, go to create and do mono behavior script. And I'll call this second one for gun. This class will be on the gun and handle the actual shooting, so spawning the bullets and all the effects and the reloading and all of that. Then I'll right click once again, go to create mono behavior script, and I'll call this one bullet. So this will be the script on the bullet. Let's start off by opening up the gun script right here, and let's delete the update function and also the start function right here. Then at the top I'll add a new library, so I'll do system.collections, and I add this because we're going to be using coroutines later. Then I'll be adding a bunch of gun settings, so I'll do public float and I'll add a reload time. I'll just set this to 1, and I'll add a public float called fire rate, which I will set to 0.15. So this will be how much time there's in between each shot. Then I'll add a public int called max size. I'll just set this to 20. Then we can add a public game object called bullet. So this will be the bullet prefab which we're going to spawn. And I'll also add a public transform called bullet spawn point. Then we can also add a private int called current ammo and a private bool called is reloading, which will be false in the beginning, and a private float called next time to fire, which will be 0. Then I'll also just add a private quaternion called initial rotation and a private vector free called initial position and a private vector free called reload rotation offset. So we're gonna actually rotate the gun when we reload. And I'll set this to a new vector free where I'll simply do 66, 50, 50. Then in our start function I'll start off by setting current ammo to be equal to max size and initial rotation to be equal to transform.local rotation and initial position to be equal to transform.local position. Oops, I did position right here. I need to do rotation. Then I'll add a public void called shoot, where I will do if is reloading, then we'll simply return because we can't shoot when we're reloading. And I'll also do if time.time is less than next time to fire, then I'll also return. And then we can do if current ammo is less than or equal to 0, well then we will start a coroutine called reload, which we will create in a second, not reload assets, reload like that. And then we can return. So let's just create that under here. So we'll do enumerator reload like so. Then under this we can do next time to fire equals time.time plus the fire rate. And we can do current ammo minus minus. So we subtract 1 from the current ammo. Then we can do instantiate bullet, comma, spawn point dot position, comma, bullet spawn point dot rotation. So this is how we spawn the actual bullet. Then for our reload right here, we can first do is reloading equals true. Then we can do quaternion target rotation equals quaternion dot Euler, where we will input initial rotation dot Euler angles plus reload rotation offset. So this will be our target rotation. And then we can set float half reload equals reload time divided by 2 and float t to be equal to 0. Then we can add a while loop where we will do t is less than half reload. And this is why we're using half reload, because half of the reload will be where it's going to the target rotation and then it will go back. So for the half reload, we will do t plus equals time.delta time. And then we can do transform.local rotation equals quaternion.slurp target rotation, comma, initial rotation, comma t divided by half reload. Then we can do yield return null. And when we do yield return null, we just wait 1 frame. And this is also why we can use time.delta time. Then we can set time back to 0. And again, we can copy this, but this time we want the transform.local rotation to return. And oops, these have to be reversed. So actually like this. And here down here, we will start from target rotation and go to initial rotation again. Hope this makes sense. Then at the bottom, we can simply do current ammo equals mag size. So we set the current ammo back to the magazine size of 20. And then we can do is reloading equals false. Then I'll also add a public void called try reload, where we'll return if we're already reloading. And we will also return if the current ammo is already set to the max size. And else, we will actually start our coroutine of reload. Let's now head back out into Unity and we'll click on our player shooting, which is all empty right now. In here we'll delete the start function and the comments. And then at the top we'll add using Unity engine.input system, because we're going to use the input system to actually trigger the stuff in the gun. So to get a reference to the gun, we'll do public gun, and a private bool called is holding shoot. So when we're holding down the left mouse button to shoot, this bool will be true. Then we can do void on shoot. So if you remember from the last episode how inputs work, we have this action called shoot, and then we just add on in front of that. So if we look right here, we have shoot release, and we have reload. So we just add on in front of those. So on shoot, where we will do is holding shoot equals true. And then we will have a void on shoot release, which was the other one. And here we'll set is holding shoot to be false. And lastly, we'll do void on reload, because we have an action called reload and we add on in front of it. Here we'll do if. Here we'll first do if gun is not equal null, because at some point we're not gonna have a gun at all times. Sometimes we have dropped the gun maybe, but we'll create that in the next episode. But then we'll just do gun.try reload, like so. So we basically call the function from in the gun, which is this function right here. And then in our update function we'll do if is holding shoot and gun is not equal null. Well, then we will trigger gun.shoot, which is the function we have in here. So up here we have this shoot function. Very nice. Now let's head back into Unity real quick. Click on scenes. Let's click on the player. Scroll down and let's add the player shooting right here. And let's click on the AR and add the gun. So add the gun right here. And for the bullet spawn point, we can drag the bullet spawn point onto there. And for the bullet, we'll create that in just a second. But first go to the player, scroll down, And let's drag the AR onto the gun, because that has the gun script. Now let's create the bullet. So go to assets, then go to this low poly weapons, then go to prefabs, and we have this bullet right here. Let's actually rename this to rifle bullet. Now go back to scenes, and let's rename this one too. Let's now go to assets, scripts, and open up the bullet script. And on the bullet script, we'll delete the comments, and then we will add a public float called speed, and I'll set this to 15. Then I'll add a public float called lifetime, so how long the bullet will be alive for if it just keeps going out into the air. And then I'll add a private rigid body called RB. Then in the start function, I'll set RB to get component rigid body, and RB.linear velocity will just be set to minus transform.right times our speed. And then we will also do destroy, game object, comma, the time, so lifetime. So after lifetime, then it will destroy itself. And yeah, we can actually also delete the update function. And then we will add an on collision enter, where we will just destroy the game object when it hits any object, basically. And save that. Now head back into Unity and click on our rifle bullet and add the bullet script onto that. Then I'll also scroll down, and these two have a mesh collider, which I will delete. And then click on the rifle bullet again and add a box collider to that instead. And let's just drag it a bit up so we can see it. Let me actually set the scale to a 3x3x3. And then I'll set the center to 0.02, the size to 0.07, 0.05, and 0.05. So that fits the bullet perfectly. Then I'll also add a rigid body to that, where I'll set use gravity to false, so it doesn't use gravity. And lastly, I'll actually add a trial renderer to this. So when I drag this around, it will leave a trial, as you can see. And now it's completely purple, and we don't want that. So just go down to materials right here and set the material to this one default line. So now we have like a white line. Then I'll set the time to only 0.25. That's actually way too long. I'll set it to a 0.05, something like this. And then the width right here, I'll set to 0.05. So a very small width. And the color right here, I'll set at the beginning to be yellow. And then I'll delete this one over here, so it's yellow all the way through. And then here at the end, I'll set the alpha to 0, so it basically fades out. And now if I drag this around, you can see like a little trial. And you'll see it better when we shoot later, but it will look very cool. So now all of our stuff is added here, and we can press on overrides and press apply all. So now it's applied to the prefab. Then we can go onto the AR, click right here for the bullet, go to assets, and we'll choose the rifle bullet right here. Then for the AR2, I'll press right here and press apply. Let me just delete this bullet right there. And then before we hit start, just open up the AR real quick and select all of these weapons right here and delete the mesh collider. And also before we hit start, we need to set the bullet spawn point to the right place. So right now it's here, so let's just set it out here. And let's try to put it at the barrel of the gun. And that seems roughly right. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always adjust it. Let's hit save and play the game. And let's now shoot. And yep, we're shooting, and we can reload when we press R. Or let's keep shooting until we don't have any more ammo. And yep, it will reload by itself. But yeah, let's now add the recoil, and let's also add some light flash when we shoot. So stop the game again and go to scripts and open up the gun script. And we will now at the bottom right here add a private enumerator, so a coroutine, which I will call recoil. Here I'll do vector 3 recoil target equals initial position, so we have our initial position which we set earlier. And then we'll do plus new vector 3 0, 0, minus recoil distance. And oops, I haven't created the actual variables yet, so let's just take this, go to the top, and let's add a public float called recoil distance, which I'll set to 0.1, and then a public float called recoil speed, which I'll set to 15. So how fast it goes back, so how fast the recoil happens. Then I'll scroll down again, and I'll now do float t equals 0. So just like we did up here, we're just gonna copy this actually, because it's gonna be very similar. So let's copy this while loop, and we don't need half time here, we'll just do 1f. And then instead of doing local rotation, we'll do local position, and we will do initial position. And this will not be an slurp, we will do a vector 3.lerp, oops, big L. And then we will do recoil target right there. And here we can just do T because we're not doing any half reload thing. Then we can copy the while loop again, add it down here, and In the middle of all of this, we actually need to set t to 0 again. That's quite important. Let's write f right there because it's a float. And this time it will be recoil target over here and initial position over here. And then at the bottom we can do transform.local position equals initial position, just to make sure that we're at the initial position again. And this we can call up here in our shooting function. So first we can do stop coroutine, where we will write name of, do recoil, like that. And when we do this, we basically just get the string name of recoil. But if we change the name of this, it's very useful to do it like this, where we write name of. So we first stop the coroutine, so we after can start the coroutine. So just copy this and add that right there. So we make sure to stop it so that we can start it, so we don't have two coroutines going at the same time. Let's also add some weapon flashlight when you shoot. So we'll add a public game object called weapon flash. And I'll just copy this instantiate function right here, where I will input weapon flash instead. So we also spawn a flash. Let's head back into Unity and we'll just right click, go to light and choose a point light. Then I'll set the color to like a orange yellow-ish and the intensity to 5. Let's just set it at 000 so we can see it. But yeah, we have a light now. And let's just call this weapon flash. And then I'll create a new C# script which will just destroy it after like a small amount of time. So I'll call this destroy after time. Open that up. And this will be the most simple script you've ever made. So I'll delete the update function, the message, and then I'll do public float called time. And then we'll do basically the same thing as we did in the bullet, where we'll do destroy game object, comma, time. So we basically destroy the game object after this time, just like the name suggests right here. Now head back into Unity, click on our weapon flash and drag our destroy after time over here and set it to 0.1. Then we can go to assets, go in here, and let's actually drag this prefabs out into assets because we don't want it in there anymore. So go to assets, prefabs, and let's drag the weapon flash in here. And let's delete it over here, and also the rifle bullet. Now let's click on our AR and we have this weapon flash right here, and let's just drag that onto there. Now hit play and yep, we can shoot. Very cool. Boom, boom, boom. And wait a minute, there's something wrong with our recoil, as you can see. And just head into the gun script. It's because we're not doing recoil speed right here. So multiply with recoil speed and also do that right there. And also if you look in Unity, when we go back like this, we actually need to set the X position and it has to be plus and not minus. And right now we're doing minus the C position. So let's do recoil distance over here instead, like that. And let's hit play. And boom, 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 boom. Yep, we can now shoot and we reload. So now everything is perfect. I really hope you liked this second episode of this FPS series. I've put a lot more effort into this series than a lot of the other videos I create. But stay tuned for the next episode. We're gonna add weapon dropping, weapon pickups. So we can drop our AR and pick up like a Glock, for example. So for example, this one down here. But since you've stayed for so long, you must really like my content. So if you want like a lot more content, go check out my paid community in the link in the description. I promise you, you will enjoy that. You can get a 7-day free trial in there to check out if you actually like it. If you don't like it, you just get all your money back in those 7 days. It's literally risk-free. Just check it out. It's the top link in the description. But yeah, have an amazing day and see you in the next episode.